Finally, the rumors and leaks about Leon Kennedy can stop. No more AI generated images of Leon. No more people fighting over the fact that he is or is not in the game. Thanks to the reveal trailer and the leak box art courtesy of Sony's major oopsie, we now know that Leon is in RE Requiem, and man does he look damn good. Love the new outfit he's rocking, by the way. Anyway, what's up, nerds, and welcome back to yet another breakdown of a Resident Evil Requiem trailer, as today I'll be taking a look at every single detail in the third trailer of RE9 and going over everything you may have missed. Believe it or not, there's a lot of information in this short 3 or so minute long trailer, and some of it has led to me coming up with some pretty crazy theories and predictions for Resident Evil Requiem. Also, there's some official screenshots and updated deluxe edition add-ons for the game that we'll talk about later in this video, so stay tuned for the entire breakdown. Oh yeah, and subscribe to the channel for more constant updates on Resident Evil Requiem, and check out the official Nerd Space Game shop, which features custom-made artwork by the talented Demento Artworks. Right now we have the Chris Boulder Punching Asshole collection available, but I have future designs in the works that feature Leon, Wesker, and Jill, so definitely check out the store and see if anything catches your attention. Link to the shop is down in the description of today's video. But without further ado, let's jump straight into it. The trailer begins with Grace Ashcroft slowly entering the room as we see her confront the main villain, or what we are supposed to think is the main villain of the game, sitting by the fireplace, a scene that we have seen multiple times now in multiple trailers. Only this time we kind of get to see this scene play out, and we get some additional information as well. Probably the biggest piece of information that we get out of this sequence is the fact that the villain I've been saying is Oswald E. Spencer all this time is confirmed to be a new villain by the name of Victor Gideon. I do still think that Spencer is in the game, but we'll talk more about that later on. Anyway, Victor is a name that might sound familiar to you if you've been following one of the most notable Resident Evil leakers out there, Dust Gollum, as he's been saying for a long time now that the hooded man is named Victor and he's connected to Umbrella in some way. Well, it looks like he was right about that, along with a bunch of other things he said, but we'll talk more about that later. For now, Victor is indeed connected to Umbrella, and he's apparently involved with some sort of secret project funded by the US government that took place in Raccoon City at some point. Before moving on from Victor though, there's one thing I want to address: this scar. Now, ever since his reveal, I've said that this scar mirrors the location of where Wesker punched a hole through Oswald E. Spencer. In fact, this was a major piece of evidence that led me to believe that this guy was indeed Spencer. However, now that we know that he is not Spencer, we gotta ask the question: what is this scar from? Why does he have this scar? Was he experimented on at some point? Did he die and get resurrected? Obviously I can't figure this out, but clearly there's more than meets the eye here, and I think it's connected to something he says later in the trailer. Moving on, there's a voice that at first appears to be communicating with Grace, but after some time we learned that she's actually talking to Leon. We know this because the voice literally says Leon's name at one point. Now, there are some really interesting theories about who this person is. The most obvious answer is Hunnigan, as that's been Leon's contact ever since RE4. Hell, we even get this quick blink or you'll miss a moment in the trailer in which we see what appears to be Hunnigan from behind tracking Leon as he's heading into Raccoon City. Here's the thing though, listening to the voice in the trailer, whoever Leon is talking to doesn't sound like Hunnigan at all, or at least not the Hunnigan that we're used to. In fact, she kind of sounds younger and she sounds like a different character from the series. I'm of course referring to Ashley Graham.
Hey, I just got a report of a missing police officer. It might be unrelated, but he disappeared near where the 5th body was found.
Yeah, I did this. Can you stand?
Now, there's a few things that point to this in my opinion. For one, as I said earlier, her voice sounds younger than Hunnigan's. She actually sounds a lot like Ashley in Resident Evil 4 Remake. Also, the voice on the radio comes off as a bit inexperienced compared to Hunnigan's voice. This in particular is what I mean.
Hey, I just got a report of a missing police officer.
Again, considering that Ashley has a lot less experience than Hunnigan, this kind of makes sense for me. Plus, let's not forget Ashley's little tease in RE4 Remake about joining Leon one day with the DSO. Another possible answer is that maybe this is Sherry. I mean, it does kind of, sort of sound like her, and she's already confirmed to be working with the DSO alongside Leon, so yeah, that makes sense. Plus, she has a strong connection to Raccoon City, like Leon does. My hunch says it's Ashley, my head thinks it's Hunnigan, and my ears tell me it's Sherry, but I'd love to know what you guys think about who this voice is in the comments down below. Moving on, we go back to Victor talking a little more, and he mentioned something about how Grace's blood is the key to setting Epis free. Okay, it's only a single quote, but there's a lot to break down here as I did a lot of research on Epis. First off, this isn't the first time Epis was mentioned in the marketing of Resident Evil Requiem. In fact, at Tokyo Game Show, there was a booth featuring a news article about Raccoon City that specifically said, "What is Epis?" The word Epis was also mentioned in a file that a good friend of mine, Better Than Starlight, go subscribe to their channel, found in a document in the demo, and it appears to hint towards the fact that the destruction of Raccoon City was to hide or protect whatever Operation Epis is by the US government itself. Now, as for the word Epis, in Greek it actually means hope or the promise of a better future or something along those lines. This does fall in line with Victor's personality as well, as the dude comes off as someone devoted to a higher calling or ancient religion with the way that he talks about destiny and chosen one and whatnot. So here's my thought process on this, and it's mainly centering around the fact that Epis is some sort of immortality experiment or whatever, okay? But this is what I'm thinking. What if Epis, and bear with me, it's a crazy one, and I'm sure my Die on the Hill Spencer is the main villain of RE9 is motivating this theory in a big way. But yeah, as I said earlier, Epis is the key to immortality. Now, this is what the government wants to cover up. However, the weird thing is that Victor mentions setting Epis free and that he needs Grace's blood to do this. Well, we know that Victor is a devoted scientist to Umbrella, or at least he was a devoted scientist to Umbrella, and therefore he's probably extremely loyal to Spencer. So what if he intends to use Epis as a way to resurrect and free Spencer from the Megamycete? We know that Spencer is connected to Mother Miranda, and almost everybody connected to Mother Miranda, the mold, or the Megamycete had their consciousness uploaded upon their death in the Megamycete network. However, up until this point, Mother Miranda was unable to successfully bring back someone from the Megamycete. Well, what if Epis and Grace's blood, which carries the antibodies of the Daylight vaccine, is the key to doing this? And what if Victor's entire motivation is to bring back his master, Oswald E. Spencer, by using Epis to set him free? I know it's a long shot here, but I just can't give up on my Spencer theory yet. I really can't. Okay, wild prediction ran over, so let's keep looking at the trailer. The next thing I want to take a look at is this black Porsche, which, yeah, clearly Capcom is cashing in on some advertisement money, but whatever, the car looks sick and there's a lot to talk about with this car, so moving on. First off, the license plate. It says ND equals 9642. While I can't figure out what the ND and equal sign means, the numbers 9, 6, 4, and 2 are ironically the same numbers of the mainline games that Leon S. Kennedy appears in as the main protagonist. So yeah, cute little Easter egg concerning the fact that it's Leon's car. On that note, the car turns out to be the one that is pulling up to Rhodes Hill Hospital in earlier trailers, which means that this is Leon that is arriving at the hospital. The last thing I want to mention about this Porsche, as it appears to be a major part in this trailer, is the fact that not only does he drive around Rhodes Hill in it, but he appears to be using it to drive towards the ruins of Raccoon City at some points in the trailer, which hints towards one other major leak that was mentioned earlier this year. In case you guys missed that one, there was a leak that said Leon would have a vehicle of some sort and that he will use it to explore Raccoon City in some sort of semi-open world format. Well, the way that this trailer markets the hell out of that Porsche, yeah, I can definitely see that being true, which I'll be straight with you guys, I'm kind of indifferent about that. Part of me thinks back to Final Fantasy 15, and I'm like, okay, yeah, sounds pretty cool to me, but the other part of me is like, really? In a survival horror game? Do we really need that? Well, something about what Keeley said after the trailer kind of reassures me a bit, but we'll talk about that later. Oh, and we finally get a good look at what the random girl that was walking in the hallway of Rhodes Hill Hospital in previous trailers looks like, and no, I don't think it's anybody from previous Resident Evil games. She just appears to be a secretary or assistant for Victor and nothing else, honestly. But then, man oh man, we get the reveal that we've all been waiting for. Leon Kennedy exits the Porsche, and holy shit, does he look like a badass even at 50 something years old. First off, let's talk about that voice.
Over here. FBI. What are you doing here?
To me, his voice sounded like Nick Apostolides, but I've also heard people saying that it sounded like Matt Mercer. Honestly, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, but I'm going with Nick for now. His new look is badass though. He has a little gray, but nowhere near the AI generated images that we've been seeing for years now. Also, that black jacket is badass, and I want a Capcom. Sell it to me, damn it, please. Just not for $1,000, please. I don't want to pay that much for it. Speaking of which, you can't really see what's under his jacket that much, but kind of looks like some sort of black tactical outfit, which I think we see as one of the costumes available to us if we get the deluxe edition. But again, his jacket covers most of the outfit, so I can't really tell for sure. But man, does the dude have battle scars, and I'm digging it. And future screenshots, which I'll bring up later, hint towards Leon potentially being infected with something. Speaking of which, Leon appears to be investigating a missing officer and some victims of the virus, and it ultimately takes him to Renwood Hotel. Actually, I think Leon arrives at Renwood Hotel at a different time as Grace, as one, Grace arrives while it's still daytime outside, whereas Leon arrives at night, and two, the voice talking to Leon sends him there about a missing cop, which I think is in relationship to the cop that Grace interacts with when she first arrives at Renwood Hotel. Plus, the synopsis of of Resident Evil Requiem, the updated version that is, straight up tells us that both Grace and Leon are dispatched to Renwood Hotel in Rhodes Hill. So yeah, that's pretty much confirmation that the scenes we see here are Leon at Renwood Hotel. I believe Leon arrives sometime after Grace is kidnapped by Victor. So here's how I think things will play out. Grace arrives at Renwood Hotel on Nathan Dempsey's orders. After arriving, there is an outbreak which claims the life of the officer that we see Grace meet along with some citizens in the area. Grace is kidnapped by Victor. Leon is then sent there to investigate, and when he arrives, the infected victims attack Leon. One of the victims bites Leon and he's infected. Eventually, Hunnigan or Ashley or whoever Leon's contact is pulls up traffic cams that reveal a car leaving the scene that she eventually learns went to Rhodes Hill Hospital where Grace is being kept. Now upon research, they find out that Victor Gideon, an ex-researcher of Umbrella, bought the building not long after the collapse of Umbrella, and after receiving the address, Leon heads there in the hopes of getting a cure for whatever he was infected with. I know rumors said that Leon went here as a rescue mission to save Grace, but I actually don't think that's the case at all, because later in the trailer, Leon appears to be surprised that Grace, an FBI agent, is there at all.
FBI. What are you doing here?
In fact, Leon arrives here around the time that the demo ends, because we see him saving Grace in the same kind of situation where Grace is being dragged off by the hack, the stalker enemy. But the really more important scenario here is the fact that Leon being surprised that Grace is even there is really weird. I mean, Leon works for the DSO, an agency under the government's control. Yet, he's really shocked about the FBI being there, and what's more, there was no mention of an FBI agent missing at Renwood Hotel, just an officer. So, I think this means that Grace was not supposed to be there. Meaning that Nathan Dempsey, yeah, ignore what I said in a previous video of mine, but this guy clearly didn't act on orders, but purposely sent Grace to Renwood to get kidnapped by Victor. I will say that this picture is what really confirmed that Victor isn't Spencer for me, as at first I thought it still could be Spencer using a fake name, but yeah, this picture debunks that. I mentioned how there are two other characters in this photo that vaguely look familiar. The first is this girl right here on the left of Gideon. I think that she could be the same girl that meets with Leon when he first arrives at the hospital, but honestly, I'm not too sure on that. The other is the guy to Gideon's right. I mentioned him because I think we see him later in the trailer as the chainsaw wielding zombie, but once again, I'm not too sure on that, so let me know if you guys agree with me or if you recognize any of the people in the photo. There are a lot of scenes back to back, by the way, that you probably missed the first time you saw this trailer, so I'll talk about each one quickly as I think they each confirm some interesting things about the game. First, Victor mentioned something interesting as he says, "Why don't I show you what's under the hood?" I don't know if this is metaphorically or he is specifically talking about the hood that he's wearing, in which the hood must be hiding something very important to the game's lore, but you guys let me know. Maybe whatever it is, it identifies him as someone important to the lore Resident Evil. I know, it's a stretch, but I figure I mentioned that. As for the scene of Leon shooting the hag and saving Grace, he uses a gun that we see Grace carry in previous trailers. We also see Leon loading this weapon while in his Porsche. So I think this means that Grace probably uses the small gun that resembles the same one that her mom uses in Renwood Hotel before she's kidnapped. Then, after she wakes up in the hospital, she's defenseless until Leon saves her from the hack and then gives her this gun, which would explain how she has this gun in other trailers. This also means that neither Grace or Leon leave the hospital immediately after meeting each other, as we know that Grace at the very least is investigating the hospital with that same gun for a small period of time at the very least. Either they are trapped and can't find a way out, or they split up looking for Victor. Regardless, clearly neither one of them leaves the hospital right away. On the topic of weapons, we see two more weapons revealed to us in the form of melee weapons. The first is an axe, which Leon uses to dispose of the zombies outside of Renwood Hotel. The other is a chainsaw that he takes from the chainsaw wielding maniac, which again I believe to be one of the scientists in the photo with Gideon. Also, throwback to Brad Vickers in RE3 Remake, as this zombie appears to say a word. I think he says call, and even the captions on YouTube thinks that he says call as well, but it's honestly really hard to tell for sure. Actually, on that note, almost all the zombies that Leon kills in the hospital appear to be doctors, nurses, scientists, or other employees that work for Victor, which means either there was an unintentional outbreak inside of the facility, or that Victor caused it on purpose to help him deal with Leon and Grace. But yeah, that does it for the trailer, so let's instead move over to some screenshots and updated content in regards to Resident Evil Requiem. The first thing I want to take a look at is the Deluxe Edition add-ons. 3 more outfits are confirmed, and while they don't officially have names, we can easily figure out what each one is a reference to. The first is Leon in a suit, which kind of tells me that the Amazon leak about DLC costumes for Leon was legit, as I think this is Leon's DSO costume. This appears to be an Easter egg to the Infinite Darkness TV show of all things. Another costume is of course RE4 Remake Leon. Then the third and final costume is Leon in a tactical black suit that personally I think is what Leon is wearing under his black jacket, so maybe Leon actually keeps his jacket on all game long unless you equip this DLC costume. We also see more gun skins and filters, but the costumes are the main things I really wanted to focus on here. But we got this close-up shot of Leon in a screenshot, and if you look on his neck, he appears to be infected. I think one of the zombies that attacked him in Renwood Hotel infected him, and this is what leads to him to go into the hospital. Another random theory, by the way, while we're on that topic, we've only seen Victor Gideon in two places, Renwood Hotel and the hospital, both of which are in Rhodes Hill. So I'm actually thinking that Victor Gideon will be killed before Leon and or Grace end up in Raccoon City, meaning that clearly I don't think Gideon is the main villain of the game. I also think that Leon will get cured of his infection before he goes to Raccoon City, as I don't think it takes long for the virus to spread, and if he doesn't get cured at the hospital after meeting with Grace and killing Gideon, I don't see how he makes it all the way to Raccoon City later. The other thing I want to mention is the updated synopsis that I teased earlier and what Keely said after the trailer. Apparently both Leon and Grace will share the spotlight and each character will have a unique gameplay experience. This pretty much confirms what the Capcom employees said at Summer Game Fest. Grace will be a more traditional survival horror experience, while Leon's section will be more action horror focused, similar to RE4 Remake. Both the updated synopsis of the game and Keely confirmed this, and honestly, hearing this makes me feel a little better about driving around in a Porsche while exploring a semi-open world Raccoon City. As long as we get that terrifying survival horror experience with Grace, I'm okay with that, honestly. But yeah, that does it for my breakdown of not only the trailer, but every bit of updated information we got in regards to Resident Evil Requiem now that Leon has been revealed. I gotta say, I'm even more excited for this game than I was coming into this event. Sure, I kinda knew that Leon was going to be in it for ages now, but the new things I saw here has me extremely excited. Epis, potentially Ashley Graham as Leon's new contact, Old Man Kennedy kicking ass in a badass new black jacket, and the gameplay all has me really wanting to dive into this game as soon as possible. Oh, and the best part, we still have one more Resident Evil showcase that will drop before RE9 releases early next year, probably in January. So what can we expect there? Well, now that Leon is officially revealed for the game, I expect that we'll see the collector's edition revealed at that showcase, and it'll reveal a Leon figurine or both a Leon and Grace figurine. Hell, we might even get that fancy ass black Porsche as a model for the collector's bundle too, but if we get all of that, chances are that'll be way too expensive, and I don't know how I feel about that. I also feel like that the showcase next month will focus on a new part of the game that we barely scratched the surface on yet, Raccoon City. And I think we'll see who Leon's contact is, whether that's Ashley, Hunnigan, Sherry, or just Grace in different parts of the game, or someone else. Again, my gut says Ashley, but let me know what you guys think. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Be sure to subscribe for future updates on RE9, as well as hit that like button if you found something new via this video. But as always, I'll catch you guys on the next episode of Nerd Space Games. Take care.